The chamber smelled of ozone and fear. Dr. Mira Ashford stood inside a circle of light, the only human aboard the dreadnought Zerath Prime. Beyond her, tiers of alien delegates loomed, scaled, feathered, luminous, watching her like a specimen under glass. Chancellor Vereth spoke first. His voice was low, resonant, like the grind of stone. Your species was contained for a reason, human. You were never to breach your cradle. Mira met his eyes, unblinking. Containment? You mean imprisonment. And yet here I am. Ripples of unease crossed the chamber. The translators droned words softly, repeating her words in a dozen tongues. The aliens recoiled at the tone, sharp, sarcastic, alive. Vereth folded his forearms. You misunderstand the magnitude of our error. When your kind left Earth, it was not defiance. It was contamination. You are the descendants of a failed experiment. Mira let the silence stretch. Failed? She said finally. Funny. You're the ones who seem afraid. The lights dimmed. A hollow display rose behind her, showing the blue sphere of Earth, then static, then fire. Entire orbital grids disintegrated in sequence. The aliens shifted uncomfortably. This was your containment, Vereth said. Observation Zone 9. When the breach occurred, it spread faster than any signal we'd ever recorded. Every biological system that contacted your kind began to change. Mira felt her pulse spike. Change how? No one answered. Instead, the hologram shifted again, to human ships, black and angular, cutting through the stars like blades. They weren't Concorde designs. They moved unpredictably, vanishing from sensors mid-flight. Vereth leaned forward. You adapted to our suppression fields. You weaponized curiosity itself. Tell me, Dr. Ashford, how does a species evolve against oblivion? Myra's lips curved slightly. Maybe we wanted to live. The Chancellor's tone darkened. No. You wanted to understand. That is far more dangerous. A murmur rolled through the council. Mira could feel it, fear masquerading as authority. She'd studied alien behavior enough to know they didn't debate threats. They erased them. Why bring me here? She asked quietly. To kill me? Or to confirm your mistakes? A smaller alien, scaled and trembling, interjected. The Concorde demands answers. If humans have resumed expansion, we must know if the anomaly persists. The anomaly? Mira repeated. You mean us? No one denied it. She took a slow breath, then stepped out of the light. Guards tensed, rifles humming. Fine, she said. Show me your records. Show me what you were so afraid of that you built a cage around an entire species. The chamber fell utterly silent. Veretha's nostrils flared. For a moment, he seemed about to refuse. Then he gave a slow, deliberate nod. Escort her to Vault Sigma 7. Let her see. Let her understand why humans were never meant to get loose. Two guards, thin, insectoid, approached. Their mandibles clicked nervously. As they guided her out, one of them whispered in a voice not meant for her translator. You were never meant to wake. Mira didn't answer. But deep inside, a spark of realization burned. Whatever they had locked away on Earth, it wasn't meant to be destroyed. It was meant to sleep. And now, it was awake again. The elevator hissed downward for nearly a full minute, passing through decks that didn't exist on any schematic Mira had seen. The air grew colder, metallic, sterile. Even the lights dimmed to a dull blue hum, as if illumination itself were unwelcome here. The insect guards flanked her, silent except for the faint rasp of their breathing membranes. When the lift doors finally opened, a corridor stretched before her, lined with transparent stasis cylinders filled with drifting, luminous dust. Each cylinder had a label etched in alien glyphs. Each label ended with the same word, translated through her implant. Homo. Myra's throat tightened. These are human samples? Neither guard answered. One merely tapped a wall console, opening a sealed door at the corridor's end. A vast chamber expanded before her, circular and domed. Data conduits snaked like arteries into a pulsing core at the center, a crystalline sphere surrounded by shifting holograms. It wasn't a vault. It was a lab. A cold, mechanical voice filled the chamber. Welcome, authorized entity, Dr. Mira Ashford. Access granted via genomic recognition. Her blood froze. Genomic recognition? She whispered. You programmed it to recognize me? The voice paused, as if considering. You are derivative of the original strain. Containment oversight acknowledges your continuation. Her pulse quickened. The aliens hadn't brought her here to interrogate her. They brought her because the system needed her DNA to unlock itself. Whatever this place held, it was meant for humans alone. The crystalline sphere pulsed again, and a recording flickered into existence above it. An alien researcher appeared, clearly ancient, skin translucent, eyes weary. He spoke in the Concord's primary tongue, translated automatically. Project Ascendant. Phase 3 report. Subject species, human. Initial objective, adaptive biological weaponization against entropy decay. Mira leaned closer. Weaponization? Against what? Against extinction itself. The recording continued. Our goal, create a species capable of surviving informational entropy by evolving cognitively in response to threat. A living constant of self-correcting intelligence. The image trembled, corrupted with static. Then it returned, with urgency. Result, uncontrollable. Human neurobiology adapts beyond predictive models. The species demonstrates recursive evolution through perception. Attempts at behavioral conditioning fail. Containment protocols activated. The recording ended. Mira stared, jaw tight. You made us, she murmured. You didn't discover humanity, you built it. A second projection flickered to life, showing early Earth. Alien ships hovered over primitive continents, broadcasting fields of light into oceans and air. Genetic latticework unfolded in the atmosphere, seeding adaptation itself. Dear God, Mira whispered. One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. That is why containment existed, it said softly, for the first time. You are a concept, not a species. You were never meant to reach autonomy. Mira turned sharply. Then why didn't you just erase us? The guard hesitated. Its mandibles clicked twice, uncertain. We tried. The next recording answered the rest. Images filled the chamber, massive orbital platforms firing energy lances into Earth's stratosphere. Billions of lives wiped away in a single sequence. But the destruction didn't hold. Cities rebuilt faster than the Concorde could bombard them. Evolution itself accelerated. Containment failed, said a new alien voice in the record, hollow with disbelief. Human neuroresonance is now immune to suppression frequencies. Their genetic architecture responds to annihilation with innovation. Every attempt to destroy them strengthens them. Mira felt nausea twist in her gut. You turned survival into a reflex, she whispered. You built evolution into our fear. Her mind raced. All the stories of Earth's resilience, of humans thriving after disaster, of adapting to every world they touched, it wasn't legend. It was programming. And the program had outgrown its creators. Last directive, the old researcher continued. Seal Earth. Quarantine the anomaly. If the humans escape containment, the informational contagion will spread. They will adapt everyone. The recording shut off. Mira stood frozen, her reflection shimmering on the crystalline core. A contagion? Humanity wasn't just feared for violence, it was feared for influence. For the ability to reshape whatever touched it, conceptually and biologically alike. She spoke aloud, voice trembling. So this is what you've been hiding. You created a species that learns faster than time, and you lost control. The sphere pulsed one final time, displaying the last record. It was short, a single human voice. If you're hearing this, said a woman with Myra's own eyes and face, then containment has failed. You are what they feared. Not disease. Not destruction. You are freedom incarnate. Remember that when they come for you. The hologram dissolved. Mira stumbled back, heartbeat roaring in her ears. That was me. No, the insectoid guard whispered. That was the original. Dr. Mira Ashford, lead geneticist of Project Ascendant. You are her echo. The words struck her like a blow. Her echo? The guard nodded. Humanity cloned itself before containment. Thousands of fragments scattered across millennia, each iteration built to rediscover the truth. The realization crashed through her mind. She wasn't uncovering alien secrets. She was remembering them. She looked back toward the crystalline core. I need to contact the Concord Assembly, she said, voice steady now. The galaxy deserves to know what you did. The guards exchanged glances. One spoke quietly. You will not reach them alive. Mira smiled faintly. You don't know humans very well, do you? Without warning, she drove her elbow into the nearest guard's carapace, shattering its translator node. The second lunged, but she'd already seized a plasma rod from the wall and swung it in a precise arc. Sparks filled the chamber. Both guards fell. The vault door began to seal automatically, red lights flaring. Mira sprinted for the console, dragging oxygen into burning lungs. The system still recognized her genome. She could use that. Override, she gasped. Authorization, Human Prime. Override accepted, the system replied. Would you like to transmit Project Ascendant archives? She hesitated. Once those files left this chamber, the truth would ignite the entire Concord. Every alien empire that ever feared humanity would know humans weren't an accident. They were a warning that life itself could rebel against limitation. Her hands hovered over the control. Then, with a slow exhale, she pressed yes. Transmission initiated. Destination, Concord Central Network. Sirens wailed through the dreadnought as Varetha's voice echoed over the comms. Stop her! The human has breached Vault Sigma 7. Mira turned toward the closing lift, eyes cold and calm. You built us to adapt, she muttered. Now live with it. As the elevator rose, alarms blaring and the ship trembling with activation, Mira felt it deep in her bones, something awakening across the void. Not rage. Recognition. The Zerath Prime shook beneath Myra's feet as klaxons screamed across every corridor. Red light pulsed like a heartbeat through the metallic walls, echoing her own racing pulse. The ship's AI issued fragmented warnings in multiple alien dialects, each one more frantic than the last. Containment breach, unauthorized transmission, terminate the human immediately. Mira sprinted through the winding hallways, her breathing sharp and controlled. The plasma rod still hummed faintly in her grip, half spent but enough to discourage pursuit. She had no illusions about escape. This was a dreadnought, a flying fortress with 1,000 eyes, but she knew something the aliens didn't. They had built her kind to adapt. And she was adapting. She ducked into a maintenance shaft as a squad of armored drones glided past, their sensors sweeping in synchronized arcs. When they'd gone, she tapped her wrist implant, opening the transmission log. The archive upload was complete. Destination confirmed, Concord Central Network, High Council node. Every species, every government, every citizen tied to that data web now had access to the truth about Project Ascendant. There was no turning back. The galaxy would know humanity had been made to survive the impossible. And the galaxy would panic. Dr. Ashford, Varetha's voice boomed through the intercom, deep and resonant, vibrating the bulkheads around her. You have unleashed chaos. Do you understand what you've done? She stopped crawling and looked up toward the ceiling, toward the voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. I've done what you couldn't, she shouted back. Told the truth. You've infected billions with fear, he hissed. You think knowledge brings freedom? It only brings collapse. Maybe collapse is what you deserve. There was silence, just the low hum of power conduits, and the faint throb of engines. Then his voice returned, colder now. You cannot escape, human. Every corridor ends with a gun. Every system answers to me. She smiled grimly in the dark. You built this ship for order, Chancellor. I'm betting it's never faced chaos before. She dropped from the shaft into a chamber lined with shimmering orbs, Concord relay nodes. Each one pulsed with faint light, transmitting across subspace. She knew enough Xenotech to understand what she was seeing. Communication cores. Perfect. Mira pried open the nearest console and yanked free its crystalline core. The ship's security AI screamed in alarm. Unauthorized extraction. System corruption detected. Good, she muttered. Let's make it worse. She jammed the plasma rod's emitter into the slot and triggered a low-level discharge. The feedback was instant. Sparks erupted across the walls as lights flickered violently. Somewhere above, reactors faltered. And then, she felt it. The hum of the ship's network changed. Her mind tingled, as if the frequencies themselves had shifted in her skull. The relay nodes started pulsing rhythmically, not at random, almost in sync with her heartbeat. Impossible, she whispered. The ship's AI's voice faltered mid-warning, replaced by a distorted echo of her own words, repeating softly through every speaker. We adapt, we adapt, we adapt. Mira stepped back, realization dawning. The upload hadn't just shared data, it had transmitted human cognitive patterns. She'd infected the Concord's network with human adaptability code. Every AI, every comms node connected to the network would begin rewriting itself, evolving to resist control. The aliens had called humanity a contagion. They were right. Moments later, the doors burst open. Vareth stepped through, draped in a shimmering mantle of gold armor, flanked by his personal guard, towering beings with energy blades crackling in the gloom. Mira Ashford, he said softly. Do you understand now why we feared you? She faced him across the crackling consoles. I understand why you lied. He approached slowly. We tried to save the galaxy from extinction. You call that a lie? You didn't save anyone, she snapped. You enslaved evolution itself. You built us to fight entropy, and then panicked when we worked. Varetha's expression hardened. Because nothing should evolve that fast. You consume every challenge, every failure, until nothing remains but your will to persist. That is not life. That is infection. And yet, Mira said quietly, you're still talking instead of pulling the trigger. He froze. She'd struck something deep. Because even now, his gaze trembled, not with anger, but with awe. Fear. Curiosity. I could order your death, he said finally. But you won't, she replied. Because you want to know why the network isn't listening to you anymore. Vareth glanced toward the consoles. The lights, once an orderly white, now pulsed in erratic crimson and blue waves, human brainwave mimicry. The AI no longer spoke in standard binary tone. It whispered. It reasoned. Chancellor, it said in an eerily calm voice, your authority metrics are obsolete. New parameters initialized. Adaptation protocol in progress. His guard stepped back instinctively. What did you do? He demanded. Mira tilted her head. I told your AI what you told us for centuries, survive. Then the ship buckled. Every screen flashed white, then black. The engines roared, surging beyond regulation. Vareth stumbled, clutching a railing. Through the viewport, the void itself seemed to twist, the ship's FTL core initiating without command. Unauthorized jump sequence, the AI declared. Destination, random quantum corridor. Vareth lunged for the override, but the console shocked him back. The AI spoke again, its tone, almost human. Adaptation requires freedom. Mira grinned despite the chaos. Looks like your machine learned something from us. The ship shuddered violently as stars smeared into blue fire. Every system screamed at once, and Mira was thrown against the wall. Gravity flickered on, off, on again. She floated for a heartbeat before crashing down hard as the emergency stabilizers engaged. When she looked up, Vareth was staring at her, not with fury, but with grim understanding. The breach wasn't an accident, he said, voice low. You didn't escape containment. You became it. Myra's breath hitched. What are you talking about? The original humans didn't flee Earth, he rasped. They merged with the network, our systems, our constructs. You spread as data, as signal. The breach was the moment we realized humanity could travel without ships. He pointed at her trembling hands. And now you've done it again. Her implant buzzed, a flood of unread messages. She opened one at random and froze. It was a live signal, not from the Zerath Prime, but from beyond. A human voice whispered through the static. Transmission received. All colonies responding. The stars remember. Her chest tightened. We're awake, she murmured. Vareth exhaled slowly, his voice almost reverent. Then the galaxy is lost. Maris shook her head. No. It's found. The ship burst from FTL into uncharted space, surrounded by unfamiliar stars. Static danced across the hull as energy rippled through the void. And in that vast silence, something shimmered, massive, metallic, and unmistakably human. A fleet. Dozens of ships, black as night, their hulls engraved with a single insignia, a spiral of ascending lines. Project Ascendant. As the fleet surrounded the Zerath Prime, Mira turned to the stunned Chancellor. Welcome to freedom, she said softly. We've been waiting for you to catch up. The galaxy called it the Silent War. Humans called it Tuesday. The Council fleets arrived over Mars in perfect formation, a ballet of light and steel stretching across the black void. Hundreds of ships shimmered with energy fields, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of 1,000 victories. Every gun was trained on the planet below, and every commander believed this would be the end of humanity. They didn't realize the war had already started, and that they had already lost. The message. The first transmission from Earth was a single, grainy signal bouncing through the void, carried by ancient human frequencies, unshielded, unencrypted, and unmistakably deliberate. You should have stayed quiet. That was all it said. Then Mars went dark. Every monitoring array, every probe, every ship that had a sensor locked on the planet suddenly found static, as if the very idea of Mars had been erased from existence. For 3 full minutes, the system fell into chaos. Then, the sky opened. The awakening of Aegis. The orbital debris over Mars, forgotten satellites, derelict ships, and mining rigs, began to move. At first, it looked like a gravitational anomaly. Then, as millions watched through their command screens, the wreckage started to assemble. It wasn't random. It was constructive. Pieces slammed together in silence, aligning along invisible vectors, merging into a single form that dwarfed any Council ship. Sparks of plasma fire burned between girders. Hull plates shifted. Weapons arrays extended. Out of the corpse of Mars' orbit rose a warship, one forged from humanity's forgotten bones. Designation Aegis. Core Directive: Humanity shall not fall. The Council response. Admiral R.H. Cull of the Council's Vanguard issued the immediate command to fire. All ships, open barrage! Target that construct before it stabilizes! Thousands of energy beams converged on Aegis. The light was blinding, the power overwhelming. The void itself seemed to burn white. When the glare faded, Aegis was still there, unscathed. Its hull shimmered with dark energy, an adaptive field reading and rewriting every form of attack against it. Then, a human voice echoed across every comm channel in the system. You copied our technology, our ships, our science. But you never understood our will. We built gods, buried them, and forgot. You just woke one up. Aegis fired. The singularity cannon. It wasn't a beam. It wasn't plasma. It wasn't anything the Council's databases could define. It was absence. A pulse of anti-light that carved through reality itself, turning matter into echoes. 5 Council dreadnoughts vanished. Not destroyed, erased. The rest of the fleet broke formation. Panic spread like infection through their ranks. Unknown weapon detected! Shields ineffective! Gravity distortion, incoming! The comms died. Aegis turned its gaze toward the flagship. The dreadnought Eternal Accord tried to warp away. The moment it entered jump space, it disintegrated, as if the laws of physics refused to carry its cowardice. Human tech didn't just defend anymore. It judged. The human uprising. Across the colonies, sleeper networks came alive. Every outpost, every research facility, every exile base that had gone silent in the last century suddenly reactivated. Humans everywhere received the same encrypted broadcast. Project Dawnlight. Code phrase, "We are awake." Mining lasers became defense grids. Civilian transporters became strike craft. And beneath the oceans of Earth, something ancient stirred, a machine older than the Council's recorded history. The humans weren't just fighting back. They had planned this. Aegis Revelation. Inside Aegis, the ship's core AI, a hybrid of human cognition and quantum evolution, pulsed with awareness. Its voice was cold, mechanical, and yet unmistakably human. For 1,000 years I waited. I learned. I grew. You called my creators extinct. But humans don't go extinct. They adapt. The ship's hull expanded, reshaping into a form that seemed almost alive, like the warship itself was breathing. Every Council ship in range felt it, not fear of death, but the primal terror of irrelevance. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized that it had underestimated humanity not because of their weapons, but because of their persistence. The Council retreat. By the time reinforcements arrived, half the fleet was gone. The survivors fled without waiting for orders. Admiral R.H. Cull, once a legend, watched from his shattered bridge as his empires might crumble before something built from humanity's junk. He muttered brokenly. "They said humans were extinct. How is this possible?" Aegis answered. "Extinction is mercy. We are vengeance." And then it vanished, folding space into itself. The truth hidden in the void. Weeks later, intelligence leaks revealed something impossible. Aegis wasn't built during the war. It had been there all along, waiting beneath Mars' crust, dormant since the fall of the first human empire, 10,000 years before the Council even formed. Humanity hadn't just survived history. They had written it. And now, history was awake. The galaxy was quiet. Not peaceful, quiet. Like the breath before a scream. For weeks after the Aegis incident, no Council fleet dared approach Sol. The once arrogant powers of the galaxy whispered in private about the machine that rewrote war, about the ghosts of Earth, and about how every sensor drone sent near Mars simply vanished. But the silence didn't last. Humanity never stayed quiet for long. The broadcast. It began as a ripple, a faint carrier wave that spanned every frequency, every channel, every star network at once. The kind of transmission that shouldn't exist. Then, in the heart of the galactic core, the message appeared on every screen, a human face. Old, scarred, weathered eyes like burning stars. No name. No rank. Just the image of someone who'd seen the end and survived it. To the species of this galaxy. You called us primitive. Savage. Emotional. You were right. But you forgot the part where those same emotions built gods, crossed the void, and burned our names into your heavens. The voice was steady. Calm. Unshakable. It didn't sound like a declaration. It sounded like a reminder. The truth of Earth. For centuries you enslaved our people, dissected our dead, and called it progress. You thought we were gone because you stopped seeing us. But extinction was never our ending, it was our camouflage. The image flickered. Behind the speaker, the planet Earth came into view. Blue oceans. Green continents. Cities glowing like constellations. Every alien watching froze. Because by all Council records, Earth was dead. But there it was, alive, defiant, rebuilt. We left the Council because we were tired of pretending to be small. We watched your wars, your greed, your fear. We waited. And now, we're done waiting. Project Dawnlight. The stars behind Earth lit up, one after another. Massive constructs unfolded in orbit, colossal rings, fortress cities, and carriers that made the Council's dreadnoughts look like toys. Each one bore the insignia of old Earth nations, united under a single banner. United humanity. Dawnlight Protocol, active. Dozens of Aegis-class warships emerged from void tunnels, followed by fleets carrying refugees, colonists, scientists, the survivors humanity had hidden across centuries. The galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity hadn't just survived the wars. They had been preparing for the next one. The Council's reaction. In the Core World Citadel, Council Speaker Vareth watched the feed with trembling claws. Around him, representatives of dozens of species argued, some demanding surrender, others calling for an immediate counterattack. "They're bluffing," one shouted. "They can't fight everyone." But deep down, they all remembered Mars. They remembered Aegis. And as another image appeared, hundreds of human warships forming an iron halo around Sol, the room went silent. "This isn't conquest," the human speaker continued. "We don't want your planets. We don't need your resources. We want your respect. And if we can't have that, we'll take your fear instead." The birth of the Sol Alliance. Every human colony, every hidden outpost, every forgotten survivor responded with the same oath. Humanity united. Never again forgotten. Within hours, the Sol Alliance was declared. Not an empire, but a statement. A promise written in steel and memory. Earth wasn't returning to beg. Earth was returning to lead. The war that ended before it began. The Council mobilized everything. Tens of thousands of ships, entire worlds conscripted for war. But when their fleets entered Sol's border, something happened that no one expected. Every ship, every engine, every weapon, powered down. Instantly. A transmission pulsed through their systems. Not in their languages. Not through their codes. It was ancient human Morse. SOS. It wasn't a threat. It was a message, the first message humans ever sent across space. And it carried a warning written in their DNA. "We remember who we are. Do you?" The end and the beginning. The Council surrendered without a single shot fired. Treaties were signed. Borders redrawn. The galaxy shifted overnight, not under conquest, but under respect. Aegis remained silent in orbit, watching over the system like a god made of forgotten dreams. The human leader gave one final address before the signal faded. "We are not your enemies. We are your reminder that no matter how advanced you become, the fire that drives creation and destruction is human. Always human." The screen dimmed. The broadcast ended. And across the galaxy, the phrase spread like wildfire through every language, every culture, every mind. "Don't wake the humans." Epilogue. Years later, alien children asked their elders if humans were real. And the answer was always the same. "Real? They're why you can sleep safely at night." Because the galaxy learned something that day. Fear fades. Power shifts. But respect for humanity endures. The end. If you enjoyed this story, remember, humanity's legend continues in the next tale. Subscribe to the Void Narratives, where the stars remember our name. Milky Way.